Welcome to Keogh's Corner.
I'm Leo.
I'm Joey.
I'm Victor.
Awesome. So today I'm meeting to talk with these guys on a number of topics, and so why don't we let Victor start?
Awesome. All right, Mr. Keogh. Did you play basketball for DS? What was it like?
Yeah, that's the rumor. I did play basketball. I played basketball and graduating in 1980. I came in to a good situation. The team was excellent, and we went to the state finals. And then the 1980 team, the year after us, went to the state finals and won. So, but I'm still scarred by that because we won quite a few big games, but we were in Division II. And when we lost in the state finals to Lynn Classical, it was a tough loss, but they were incredibly talented. The next year, the team, by chance, dropped to Division III just because of the size, the population size, and that allowed them to have a different level of competition. So I still think that the D2 team was the one that rocked the house.
I see.
Yeah. So I did play, but actually I spent a lot of time on the bench. So I had a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. We had a lot of good players. There were at least 5 guys dunking on that team.
Oh, wow.
So we used to have a good time, worked hard. I still see some of the players from time to time, and it actually had a pretty big impact on my life because at the time I certainly didn't like being so far down on the bench, getting in for 15 seconds at the end of the game. You can imagine. It was pretty humbling, but in my line of work today, it's important to know that there are people who can do things better than you. And the sooner you come to accept that, the better. So that was very helpful to me in the big picture. I also learned a lot about the importance of every team member and knowing that, yes, some people are in there all the time getting the points and the glory, but they have to practice with someone, right? So it was a great experience for me, and I'm psyched that the kids were able to go through that. I tweeted that the last time I watched a game from that angle, a high school game, state championship game, was sitting on the bench in 1980, so it was a lot of fun.
How was it being a student athlete during the time, just in general?
I can't remember anything special about it, except it always felt, it actually always felt awkward to me when we'd have a big game and people would come up and say, "Nice game," and I'd be like, "Yeah, well, I didn't play." So that somehow that sticks with me. But well, like I said, just being part of that team and learning and growing up with those guys, it was a really good thing. And in such a small school, you do get a lot of attention for it. So I guess it was pretty cool.
Cool. So moving on to school safety, just right off the bat, is there any updates that you can give us on the plan for that?
Yes. So actually, you've probably seen some of the folks in the building working, wiring things around the doors. We are moving towards a buzz-in system. We announced this at the school committee meeting maybe three weeks ago, and the plan is to actually roll it out after April vacation. And so basically what it would mean is that during the day you would during a period the doors would be locked. It's kind of automatic, it's set to a schedule, and then between periods they open. And if you come to the school during a school period, you'd have to go in through the main entrance and buzz. And we put a lot of thought into that. We had an audit done. So outside organization kind of audited our safety protocols, and their recommendation was to go with something like this. Quite honestly, I think it's a sad day that we have to do things like this. I don't think it's the end-all solution. I think it is going to change the feel of DS a little bit, which I think is really unfortunate. At the same time, all of this safety conversation has allowed me to remind people that, you know, if you want to keep the kids safe, it's mostly about making sure we're taking care of them and not allowing kids to become disenfranchised or disengaged in the school or detached. Because after all, it's some of these, you know, vicious crimes that have been done in these other schools. Frequently, it was by a student, just a very angry student, and so obviously we can't afford that. Yeah, so
Certainly.
that's where we are on that.
So that actually kind of covers my next question, which would be what has been done lately to make our schools safer.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I guess is in the same vein. And what is going to be done over the summer of this year in preparation for the coming school year?
So a lot of the work has already been done, and some of the work that's been done we're actually not discussing.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just not putting it out there. It's just we've got some safety protocols and some safety devices that we think are important, but they're for safety purposes only. And so, you know, the bulk of the work was really this electronic buzz-in system, and that'll be done in the middle school too. So it's similar to Pine Hill and Chickering.
Yeah.
It's actually very similar. And so that's about it.
Okay, sounds good. So I think that's all we have for school safety, so we can move on to a sleep study update.
Yeah, so on our last program, we talked a lot about sleeping and school times. Can you give us an update on any new movements that have been happening there?
Absolutely. So tonight there's actually a speaker coming in, a gentleman named Chuck Seisler, Dr. Seisler, and he's going to do a presentation for the community and staff or students, anyone who wants to come really. It's going to be in the middle school choral room, and he's going to kind of review the sleep science, the science end of it, and respond to questions that have been sent in along the way. Those folks who have RSVP'd submitted questions, which is helpful to us, so we know what's on people's minds. So after he speaks, Mr. Smith and myself and Ms. Dayal, the principal at Chickering, will be seated at the front of the room with Dr. Seisler, just responding to people's questions. You know, this is one of those topics that generates a lot of conversation. You guys know that.
Yeah.
A ton of conversation. It's not unusual, quite frankly, for the kids to not be crazy about the idea. That's what our research shows. You know, most of the towns that have done it, like Wayland is starting it next year, Weston, you may know kids from those towns. There was some resistance from the kids. They weren't crazy about the idea, which we understand. And we're not dismissing what the kids have to say in any way. What we're really faced with, what I'm faced with, is I have this decision to make, because I have to, if there's going to be a change, I have to make the recommendation to the 3 school committees. So we call it the joint school committee. To the 3 school committees, and then they have to accept my recommendation. So I haven't made a final decision as to whether there'll be a recommendation or what my recommendation would be. I will say, it's hard to deny the impact that a lack of sleep has on people. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. When you've really had a stretch of no sleep, which I've had many times over, not the least of which being when I had children, and they were up all night, little babies. When you don't get sleep, it impacts everything. You can't concentrate. You don't retain things that you hear. you feel down, can't really lift your head up, you're just depressed. And so I totally agree that lack of sleep is not a good thing. The place that I think that I'm hearing from kids that they're torn on is whether or not it has anything to do with the schools, or is it more of a personal thing. So that's the concern I hear. That's the complaint I heard when I talked to the 9th and 10th graders, is that, and I got a few emails after that, kids saying basically, you can't tell us when to go to bed. It's not your role. And I totally agree with that. But what the science is showing is that the times that we wake you guys up is actually the time that you're in your deepest sleep cycle. That's the time where your body's, getting the most benefit from the sleep. So, a lot of kids will say, well, I'll just go home and take a nap. And then they take a nap, it becomes a daily thing, but it doesn't seem to have any impact. That's because you're not getting into the deep sleep. The deep sleep, the science shows it for teenagers. They don't typically get tired until 11, and then their deepest sleep is in that 6 to 8 in the morning period. And so what do? We wake you up right in the middle of it. So it's a tough topic. It seems like a no-brainer if you're just looking at the science, but then if you talk to the people, they'd say it's a no-brainer, leave it alone, everyone's content. So very, very challenging. But that's where we're at. I'm going to be going to the school committee, the 3 school committees on April 9th, and with the Start Time Task Force, and we'll give them our kind of picture of what we think are possibilities.
So any other news you'd like to cover regarding school?
Other news in the schools. Well, as I was saying to Victor, I absolutely loved that show in Chicago. You guys did such a nice job. I really, really enjoyed it, and I want to give the kids credit for that. I just know it's a ton of work. It was really nice to see as many kids as there were on the stage, and then going to that game, that championship game was absolutely awesome. I mean, it was just, that felt like a really, that just felt like a special DS crowd. You had a wide spectrum. It was so funny, after the game I saw my neighbors shooting hoops. It was instant. It's great for the feeder system when a team does as well as these guys did, because then the other kids look up to them and they want to emulate them. Then another important piece of news was that they had the Dover Sherburne Athletic Hall of Fame event this weekend. That was pretty neat. I saw kids from Era, who are no longer kids, and being recognized. And my former basketball coach, Chris DeBose, was recognized. Richard Wakely, who the gym is named about, was my headmaster. He's a good man, and so that was a very cool event. So there's a lot going on. We have a lot going on. Things are going well. How about with you guys? What's happening with you?
Not very much, at least for me.
You talked about senior projects coming up.
Yeah, I just working on the parole board out there with my friend Danny Bennett. It's going to be a good opportunity to learn. At the beginning of the year, I was interested in pursuing pre-law. I'm not really anymore, but I think that this will still be a cool learning experience.
Yeah,
for sure.
Good. Well, that's the point of the senior projects, right? To
Yep.
either go after something you're passionate about, or go after something you thought you were passionate about and find out actually you're not. So that's awesome. And Joe, how's the junior year going?
Good.
Good. Have you guys started selecting courses yet?
Yeah, all done.
You're all done with that?
Yeah.
So you know what you're going to take next year?
Oh yeah.
You said you're going to work this summer lifeguarding?
Yep.
Good for you. Awesome job. Great resume builder, if you care. And I think kids do. Victor, what are you up to this summer?
Not much.
Yeah.
I guess my parents said we're going to China for 3 weeks.
Nice.
So there's that.
Yep. That'll be
Other than
interesting.
that, I'm going to try to just work.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Yep. And you're a senior this year.
I am a senior this
Yeah.
year, yes.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've come a long way. Have you been here for your entire school experience?
I moved here when I was in 8th grade.
Yeah, good. Excellent. Well, you already have had an impact, that's for sure. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
And I look forward to doing it again.
All right. Sounds good.